Today I'm going to show you how to prep your tracks so that you can send them off to have them professionally mixed.
True Sound Studios is in your ears.
So I got the project open, and this is the project that's been in the same song that's been in like the parallel compression video. So this is just very basic, very, small track count, just something easy to show you how to prep your track so they can be professionally mixed. So the first thing we want to do, so we don't want to screw up all the work you've already done by, mixing, compressing, effects, all that. For some reason, if you never do get it mixed or whatever, we don't want to waste all that time you've already spent. So very simply, just go File, Save As. This is the way that I just make copies of my projects. And we're just going to do pcomp, and then this will be mixed. So just something very simple, and then hit save. As you can see up here, the project now is parallel compression mixed. So this is the version that we can screw up. So the first thing we're going to want to do is disable all of our plugins. Now in Sonar, I'm able just to press the letter E, and as you can see, all these plugins are going to turn gray. And now we have eliminated all of the plugins that are on all of our tracks, including the buses, the master output. Everything is just totally raw right now. Okay, so I'm going to zoom down here. And another thing that we're going to want to do is get rid of all of our effect sends. So in this case, we have some parallel compression, early reflection, we have reverb. And essentially what I'm doing is just turning off all of these. So now we have no more effect sends. Now, when you press that E button, now it might be different, and I'm sure it will be different on your DAW. So we've eliminated all of our sends because that E button is not going to turn off those sends. It's essentially it's a different thing. And then also on the bottom, I was sending some of our drums to even more buses. So we want to make sure these all go to just the master output. So we got Vox bus. So we're just changing all these to master output. We just want to pay attention to everything that's going to the master output. Okay, so I'm going to leave that open down there so you can see all that. Another thing we want to do is make sure that all of our pan knobs are straight up and down. Okay, we don't want to worry about any panning. You're going to send me a version of your track anyways, the way that you've already mixed it, and that's going to be essentially my reference point. Okay, so let's start off with something very simple. Very typically, I'm sent projects where, you bought a beat or you leased a beat or your friend made a beat for you, and then essentially all you did was just, uploaded the beat into a project and you recorded vocals over it. So we're going to pretend like this is our mixed down beat. I'm going to play this. So this beat is just very simple anyways. Right now it's just a piano and a kick and snare. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to pay attention to our master output. So I don't want files that are, smashed and they're essentially clipping at 0. And I also don't want them too quiet, because when I bring up the volume, what's going to end up happening is we're going to bring up a lot of the background noise. And if you didn't have the best converters or the best interface, we can get in issues. And essentially this whole video is just how to get the audio to be as good as possible when you send it to me. So the ideal number on our master output, okay, and this is going to be, we're going to solo each track, and the number we're aiming for is -5. That is pretty good. It's loud enough that when I add compression, if I put the threshold all the way down to 0, I still have some room to work with the compression. And it's also a good level because when we start piling all the tracks together, our master output is not even going to be -5. It's probably going to be even higher than that. So just a really good level to start with. So we have our beat. So that's what we're going to start with. Let's start with our beat. And we want to try to get this master output to be at -5. So right now it's at -2. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn down our beat channel. We never want to mess with the master output. That's not what we're going for. So I'm going to turn this down to 2.5, see what we get. So, I mean, that's close enough. -4.9 is close enough. So that is good. So we got our beat level at a good volume. So now we're going to go to the next track, and it's going to be our main vocal. So I know it's saying -9, and what you want to do, and depending on your program, if I click this, it's going to reset essentially the peak value, the loudest section of the music. So let's go back. I gotta go. So it looks like -9. So we're actually pretty low here. And if we look at the audio file, it definitely was recorded fairly low. Unfortunately, I have to record everything by myself. So, I get what I get sometimes. Okay, so we're going to crank this up 6 decibels. I gotta go. So that initial peak, we're getting -3 out of it. So it's still a little too loud. So we're going to back this down to 5. So now we're at 4. Go down 1 more decibel. So there you go. That's our magical -5 number that we're going for. So I did have to boost this, as you can see right here, 4 decibels to get it there. So the next thing we got is our double track. So let's take a look at this. So obviously that needs to go up quite a bit. So we're at -7, so it's not too bad. So let's bring it up 2 more decibels. So -5.1. Once again, close enough. And essentially what you're going to do is you're just going to go through every one of your tracks, all your vocal tracks separately with, obviously there should be no effects on anything. And got our harmony here. So with some of these tracks that are obviously recorded just too quiet, if we're going to boost this even too much, and for example, harmony is obviously going to be much quieter in the mix compared to the main vocal. So we also don't want to go crazy with things that were intentionally supposed to be too quiet. So in this case, I got this volume maxed out and we're still only at -7. So that's okay for background things. So anything main, we're talking about kick drum, snare drum, hi-hats, bass lines, guitar, synths. Those are the things that we want to try to keep as loud as possible. So I do want you to pay attention and boost those as much as you can. And hopefully you recorded them loud enough that it shouldn't be a problem. But for these things that, were recorded quiet and the intention that they were going to be quiet in the end, it's not really too big of a deal. And then lastly, we got this backup vocal. Gotta go, gotta go. So as you can see, this is just really quiet vocal. Gotta go. So even peaked, we're only getting an 11.7 out of it. So that is close enough for me for this purpose. Okay, so our project now has been essentially level-wise is set up for our mix. Now, we don't care about if you press play right now, how loud everything is going to be. This is solely based on a track per track basis. So, what would happen right now if I exported these all as separate files is when I put them into my project to then mix, all these vocals would essentially move back to 0. Whoops. Now, if we export all these, this is how it would turn out. And obviously, this is not in the right place. These files are not in the right area. So every program is going to do it different. Let's make sure I didn't screw this up. Okay, cool. So what I do is I just take a teeny tiny little chunk of audio like this, and I take this and I copy it, and I bring it to the beginning. So we zeroed out. So we're at all the way at 0. And I'm going to copy this on all 4 of our vocal tracks. So what's going to happen is when I export these files, let me go back real quick and fix this because this is obviously not, this is all chopped up now. Okay, so when I export these files, it's going to start me all the way at 0. And that's because I have added a little chunk of audio in the very beginning. Now, obviously, when I go to mix this, I'll just cut that out. Not a big deal. Now, if your project starts where, your vocal comes in immediately, what you're going to want to do then is shift your whole project over then. Maybe over 1 or 2 bars to give it enough time so that I still have room to cut that blank space out of there so everything lines up nicely. Okay, so now it gets into the exporting part. So there's a whole bunch of different ways, and I'm just going to go with the fact that nobody knows how to, properly do this. So I'm going to export these just one at a time. So I'm going to select and or solo one track, and then I'm going to go to File and then Export Audio. And we're just going to pick something simple on the desktop here. Actually, not on the desktop because I don't remember that it's there. So down here, I'll just create a new file and we'll call this mixed just for right now. And so what we're exporting right now is the beat. So just the beat is being exported. So we're going to do just beat. Now, the audio settings is going to be very important. This project, as you can see right up here, is at 48K 32-bit. So down here we have 48K 32-bit. Now I don't want to change this. Whatever you recorded this at, please leave it alone. It doesn't matter what it is, if it's, standard 44K, 16-bit, whatever it is. Don't try to resample these because there's a possibility that you're going to actually, convert these and we're going to have some junk noise left over. I have some extremely high-end converters. I can change it to whatever I want if need be, but let's just leave that alone. Now in Sonar, there is a fast bounce, and I definitely don't want a fast bounce because I want these tracks to come out as good as possible. Now, one more thing, the channel format. Now this beat is obviously recorded in stereo. Okay, the whole file is stereo. Now, if this was a vocal, I would want to change this to mono, but because this is the beat, we're going to go to stereo. Now, just for the sake of taking less time, I am going to do the fast bounce right now, but please don't fast bounce any of this. This is just so we can get this done with real quick. Okay, so now we got our track exported, and now we're going to go to the vocal. So vocal 1, our main vocal, and we're going to make sure we select that little chunk up front. Another thing you could do is take this and select it all and then bounce this so that the file is, that large and does go out at the beginning, if in case you're nervous about not having it all line up and making sure you grab that little audio chunk that we put in the beginning of all the vocal files. Okay, so now we got our vocal. I selected that. We soloed it. And we're going to go to Export Audio. And we'll do V1 for vocal 1. Now you can label these whatever you want. Once again, no fast bounce. I'm just doing the fast bounce right now just for the sake of making this take quicker time. But because vocals hopefully you tracked all these in mono because there's no reason to track it in stereo. I'm going to also export this in mono and then the same sample and bit rate. So we're going to click export, and then we'll just do this for all of our tracks. Export. This is V-dub. And so on. Once again, that's mono. Get to our harmonies. Export. Now, once again, there are many different ways to export tracks. I'm just doing this the easiest way possible so that nobody screws this up, because that definitely slows things down. It's a lot of time wasted. And please go find a video here on YouTube that is for your DAW, your specific program. And I'm sure there's an even quicker way to do this. So last one we got here is just our vocal effects. And once again, mono. Okay, so that is it. And that is how you're going to export all your files. Obviously, then we have a specific folder called mixed, and you're going to send that to me either via WeTransfer. I use Hightail. I really like Hightail because of the app. Just makes things in the end easier when I send the file back to you. You can also use Dropbox. Whatever you choose. For the most part, you're not going to be able to email these files because they're going to be too large for any standard email to let you send them. So for the most part, that is how you prep and export these individual files to send them to me to mix, or to send them to any other studio to get your song or your tracks professionally mixed. All right, guys, thanks a lot.